Good evening, it's 7:03. Get the North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting study session started. Before roll call, we have a couple business things we need to take care of, so. Councilmember Niket, Jersey?
Just texted us. He asked if he could join virtually because he's sick.
You can promote him. Yeah, Frank, he can.
Hear us, Niket?
I can now, yes. Thank you. I'm here and present. Excuse me.
Niket, can you explain why you can't be here in person?
I came down with a flu or cough a couple days ago. I'm still on the course of antibiotics, and I didn't want to spread the germs.
Thank you for that. We don't want your germs. Please take care.
Thank you.
Proceed with roll call then.
Commencing roll call now. Vice Chair George Salmon,
Here.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado, Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
Here.
Councilmember Niket Searcy,
Here.
Councilmember Brooks Esser, Councilmember Blair Whitney, Councilmember Kelly Parisi, Councilmember Mariela Peralta. Here. Chair Kathleen Dow.
Here.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and get started with our study session for May 16, 2024. We have talked about a bunch of different ideas and things that we had prior when the Supervisor Slocum was here and sort of giving us some ideas on things that he would like to see. And so kind of moving forward in conversation, we've thrown around a lot of ideas. We talked about subcommittees and ad hoc committees and things like that.
We have no public comment, but we're fine. No worries.
Sorry, still on. Okay.
We have no public comment.
Okay, we have no public comment. Sorry about that. Okay, now we're getting started. We tossed around a number of ideas when Supervisor was here at the meeting, presenting some things that he would like to see. And we discussed ad hoc committees and how to go about tackling some of the things that we would like the council to get a little bit more involved in. I think that meeting truly drove home the message that the council wanted to do more and needed to do more to get a little bit more involved in the community and hear from people directly. And result of some of those conversations did include a couple of ideas that we've tossed around. And kind of going through those and trying to set up some sort of discussion points for tonight, thought it would be important if we just understood some of those conversations from that last meeting. That we walked away from the Middlefield Road beautification project and understanding that a small business association would be a great idea for the council to take on. Another thing we looked at was more community engagement, trying to understand a little bit more about the needs of the community, trying to maybe link the divide between the two sort of North Fair Oaks that exist. We talked about green space, we talked about parking, we talked about especially Middlefield Road parking and some of the challenges, bike lanes and a couple of other different ideas just have been tossed around, and some of them we thought about putting them into an ad hoc committee. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I know I have some recommendations for what I would like to see, but since those things are not on a formal agenda, we need to bring them forward tonight publicly. So I have some ideas and have tossed out some notes and my own thoughts, but would really like to hear from all the other council members on some ideas that they have, if they agree with the things that we've kind of narrowed down, or if they want to see some other priorities. But I do believe that the Small Business Association, Middlefield Road parking, and more community engagement, which would be more things like community cleanups, fairs, cars and conversation, a bunch of different ideas that we could come up with and then put some solid plans together so that we make sure by the end of 2024, we've reached those goals. So I would just like to open it up for discussion. Agree, disagree, have any other thoughts, and maybe we can narrow those things down tonight. To provide the supervisor with a work plan.
Sure. Niket has his hand up.
Niket?
Just want to say thank you, Chair. That's a pretty good list. I am sorry I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I definitely been in touch with Supervisor Slocum and some of the planning about trees and the tree ordinances. So I do still have a plan of, starting and chairing that subcommittee on the trees. We have received the initial draft of the ordinance, so the plan is to review that. And again, looking forward to trying to maybe also add something around the environment, the trees and green space to one of our priorities. Again, we all know climate change is happening and it's real, and we've all been seeing a lot of that recently. So anything we can do to work on that, and maybe around awareness and programs, or facilitate ways for people to create more green space and understand some of the benefits, would be something I'd love that if this committee or council can also focus in on.
Great points. George?
We've chatted outside of these halls, and I fully agree with everything you said. But I've been thinking the past few days and chatting with some other people and gathering ideas. And one thing to add to this list that I haven't mentioned to anyone yet is more so our own identity. Like, what brings people to North Fair Oaks? I don't know that we have anything that really stands out. I mean, you look at Little Italy, you look at Chinatown, and they have their identity. They've got their flags on the windows. They've got things that make people go there as a destination spot. What do we really have? We have a lot of culture here, a lot of South American culture. How can we stress those points and actually make it an attraction? How can we, and I'm just thinking, I'm spitballing here, but how do we make it something that we can exemplify, something that we can push and say, this is our culture, this is our town, here's what we're really good at. It could be food, it could be putting certain flags upon different buildings, could be every Friday we have our cars and coffee where the locals come out and show off their vehicles, but something to really make this an attraction to bring the crowds here and start getting investment, start getting development, start getting everything that we need, because I just don't see it happening. And we seem a little confused in what it is that makes us stand out.
How did you categorize that?
Good question. Probably identity.
Can I ask a
Please.
clarification, Niket? Did you say climate change and trees and green space as two different items? Or are you saying climate change?
I'm saying due to climate change, I think we should try to see what we can do in our neighborhoods to expand the tree canopies, as well as create green spaces to help account for that. So
So the priority, would the climate change be a priority, and then the
No.
subsets?
the
of-
priority would be trees and green space in North Fair Oaks because of climate change. So the hope is we can do our little part to help impact that.
Can I comment? I'd like to comment on, as a follow-up to what George just mentioned. And so I'm thinking that there's a couple of ways to look at the identity of our community. And one is to the exterior, and the other one is internally.
Sure.
I think to the exterior, there might be a good way to promote, our businesses, stores that you don't find, miles away, the surrounding But I think that in terms of doing it internally, that would be for unification purposes.
Agreed.
And Kathleen had mentioned, unifying certain sectors of North Fair Oaks that are divided, physically divided, either by the Caltrain or the Hetch Hetchy, et cetera. And so I think that one of the unifiers that has worked has been the North Fair Oaks Festival, the annual festival. And obviously, once a year doing a unification event is not the best. Ideally, we should have a series of events that invite neighbors to come out and meet, greet. However, we don't have, public plazas, parks where we can meet.
Agreed.
And so that makes it really difficult for this community to have a sense of, I guess, identity, on the other hand, for example, Chinatown, Japantown, these are entities that essentially not only they have the demographies, from those cultures, but also they have the formal designation of a Chinatown, of a Japan.
How do we get that formal destination here?
Exactly.
Make
So
us
that would be an issue, because when 75 or 80% of the population here in North Fair Oaks is, from Latino origins, I mean, in essence, we should qualify to be the Chinatown of the Latino town, but we are not. How do you get that designation, right? Because that could be a great unifying point, for our neighbors. And so, I just wanted to throw out those.
No, we're on the same lines of thinking, and I'm thinking all the things that we have on our blocks. We've got Michoacan grocery store at Middlefield and 6th. We've got a heck of a food scene here. All the things that we have, we need to start, I don't want to say exploiting, but exemplifying them and really making it a place where people can say, hey, I can get some of the best South American food in town, or I can get unique groceries. Maybe on the weekends, we have a farmer's market or something that, really pushes all the stuff that we have and make it publicly known.
Great points. I think one of the things though that we need to do in order to strengthen that or make that happen is we need some door-to-door boots on the ground conversations with people up and down Middlefield Road to try to unify, I think, the businesses in such a way that they get on board too. I think we could go out and create programs, but until we get buy-in from, I think, the businesses.
Sure.
So I would then champion putting the business association as like one of the top things on our list so that we can start to build things like what you're talking about, best burrito, best.
Well, we
Asian
look at
market.
Capella, they just got
Best
awarded,
100,
so
yeah.
we need to start marketing this
We
stuff.
need to start marketing it. So the best way to do that, I think, is to organize and get feedback from the business owners, really identify and understand what their business models are and what they could bring to do that.
I agree with you. I think it's a phased approach. Maybe we, break it down in multiple steps of one being chatting with business owners, what makes them unique, what they could provide. And another thing is figuring out, we come up with a list maybe of what do they want to do on the weekends? Do we want a farmer's market? Do we want car shows? What do they want to see?
Yeah.
And start doing that.
Putting a list together and just going door to door, I think is the first place to start. And I think we as council members need to commit to doing that. We have to do that work.
In addition to that, like, once we do that, we gotta have the physical look as well. So that people driving through know that they're in a unique part of town, something that stands out.
And we've gone back and forth, we've talked with the supervisor and others about the beautification program. All the businesses are beautiful, but a fresh coat of paint, set a flag.
But even the businesses, if they want to put, we've got Guatemalans, El Salvadorians, Mexicans, we've got everyone here. Represent your flag with the American flag outside your business, just showing, what we have, what cultures we have here represented, and make it stand out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have you seen, Siete Mares just added flags? I love how it looks, and that idea, it actually came to mind. I said, what if every business here would add a flag of where they're from, right? They're not all Mexicans, Centroamericanos, you have Salvadorians, Guatemalans, food all around. So if we all added our flags, you have Group Cafe, which I believe they're Vietnamese or so. So, if everybody just added their flag, that would be amazing. I also spoke to a very close friend of mine who's a painter, and this morning we're discussing an idea of, how North Fair Oaks would look more vivid, more alive. And we were discussing perhaps adding, vibrant colors to each building. Not all the same color, but just different colors so that when you drive by, it looks vivid, it looks happy, it looks like somewhere you want to go. So flags, more vivid colors, fresh coat of paint, as you said. I also think, like Ever mentioned, not doing just once a year an event. How about we do Salsa Fridays? Or, right, we have the parking where, a lot of these places that offer, for example, the salsa or events have alcohol involved, but not everybody wants to drink. What if I want to bring my daughter, right? It would be really nice to have an event, let's say at the parking lot that we have, what is it?
Second.
Yeah, Middlefield Second, and we do an event where it's like a salsa thing, just an evening of nothing more than just salsa, bring your own chairs, kind of like they do downtown. That would be nice.
Exactly. Start bringing the
That-
crowds.
yeah, so
bring
bring the crowd,
a cadence.
exactly, get to know us, North Fair Oaks, and fall in love with us, because we are lovely businesses and individuals and neighbors. It's beautiful. Not too long ago, I was at the cafe over by Stanford, can't recall. And I believe they had students come from abroad, and I overheard them talking, saying, well, yeah, the neighborhood is a little scary, but it's okay. And I want to take that mindset out of people. It's not. We're beautiful. It's a beautiful community. There's nowhere else that I've seen, for example, downtown, where you go and hi, buenas tardes, buenos días, ¿cómo está? You get that all up and down North Fair Oaks. Everybody's so friendly. It's like being in Mexico.
Family vibe.
Yeah, so if we just start bringing and drawing more of a crowd this way, and I do believe farmers markets, everybody loves farmers markets, right? Early morning, get a coffee, go get your groceries or your veggies and all that, right at North Fair Oaks.
Have the bakery on Middlefield and First, I think it is.
Yeah,
Have their fresh baked goods out. We have a lot of options within our district.
We just have to commit to putting that association together and doing the work, and I'm on board to do that. That becomes.
Just for clarification, are we saying the small business is a priority or the association, the development of an association is a priority?
Well, it's a small business association.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all the same. I've sort of been working independently on just a questionnaire that we can start to think about. Understanding needs and what businesses are and stuff like that, so. And that was sort of coming out of the subcommittee, so. But,
And Tim, before that questionnaire goes out to businesses, does that have to be reviewed by council? Does it have to come to the public? If the council is doing an assessment?
Doesn't have to.
No.
No.
So that kind of goes back to the idea of this small business association bringing in all of the council members instead of it being an ad hoc committee. So those that can participate by boots on the ground, walking, things like that, so we can start to set up a schedule. And does that get shared with the public? What
Well,
has to happen?
I think
or
two
something like
questions.
that?
It's about, I heard you say that no longer an ad hoc and that being open up to all of board members. And I think that that might be a Brown Act if they all meet together outside.
If it's a meeting of a majority of the council, it's a Brown Act meeting.
But if it's two people walking Middlefield Road to get answers and then another two council members another day, that's not a violation.
Nope.
Yeah, that's probably how we.
As long as you wouldn't communicate all at the same time. So
We would communicate back.
You'd have to come to an actual formal agendized meeting to discuss what you found and who you talked to.
Okay, that's fair. So I think some things that, we can definitely learn from the businesses is something that seems to still be an issue. And I'm hoping that by doing the door-to-door canvassing, talking with business owners, we can come up with what appears to still be a challenge, and that's Middlefield Road parking. Anyone want to comment on that? I feel like if you do research on parking, especially if you're a small business owner, you know that we are creatures of convenience, and if we can't pull in right away and get what we need, we drive to a Starbucks that has a parking lot, or a grocery store that has a parking lot. So I think we still have challenges from what I understand, and I'd like to open that up as a possibility. Is that should be something that we should be focused on either independently or a part of the Small Business Association. But, some ideas outside the box parking. And what I mean by that is, does anybody have a lot? We've talked about that. Does anybody have a lot that they might want to, sell parking ticket, sell spaces? Is there any identified lots where there's nothing going on and maybe somebody would want to give up the space? Just kind of some outside the box thinking, because and also, should we be talking about long-term funding for a parking lot that we would like? Or smaller lots, a better idea? Can we get some smaller lots faster so that we could get maybe another 40, 80 parking spots somewhere along Middlefield rather than wait 5 or 6 years for a big structure? Just ideas, thoughts?
Well, the HHE, has some spots along Middlefield Road that if the PUC would allow to use that, some of those spaces as parking. I think their issue is that no structure has to be standing on that land, but, as a parking lot, there needs to be nothing in there. And I think there's a policy where vehicles need to move, I don't know, every 2 hours or 3 or however many, and not stay overnight. That may be, sort of an assurance that no cars are going to be left there abandoned, or else they will be towed away. So that could be one alternative.
Can I ask what location are you referring to? It's on Middlefield? I don't know the Middlefield SFPUC.
Yeah, no, so the HHE doesn't go along Middlefield, but it crosses it. And I'm thinking around, I think is on Second Avenue going
400
north,
block.
I think. Yeah, behind Maneki or there's some shop.
It's in the middle of the street. It's in the middle of the block. It's between two residential homes.
Around there, yeah. So that's, that's one space that is closest to Middlefield Road.
The 400 block.
Right, yeah. And other than that, there may be a church, that could have potentially empty spaces during the working week, maybe not on the weekends, but it might be a matter of negotiating parking with them.
So what I capture is parking, small business association, community engagement, identity of NFO, and trees and green space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the 5 priorities I've heard you guys talk about. Is there anything, or Blair, we didn't get your thoughts on it. Anything to add? These are just kind of brainstorming some priorities for 2024. And then I'm seeing if I've captured the right priorities. I know that there's been a lot of talks about some ideas within each of them, but right now I'm just trying to keep it up at the high level. What are those priorities? What are your thoughts? Ideas?
We discussed many things, but we kind of narrowed it down to these being the top. From other conversations we've had.
Then if those are the top, I'd like to then run through an exercise to then identify, how do you identify which is the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or 6 or whatever we're at.
Could I add a couple more?
This is your group?
So one goes along the lines with I guess the identity of North Fair Oaks or unification, more specifically about this council, and that is outreach for attendance, which continues to be a pending issue, in my view.
That outreach for board members, council members?
No, just for
Or
general
just
attendance,
Okay.
yeah.
For
Just so that-
NFOCC?
Right, just so that people know that they have a council that meets every month and, you know,
Is
they're
that-
free to come.
Is that a standalone priority for this group? Or is it part of your community engagement priority, which talked about series of events, unifying, or is it the council's priority to say, we really want to prioritize and work with the community, one, to identify who we are, what's the meeting, and really do an outreach about that?
Yeah,
Is
that's a
it
good
one or the other?
question.
Sorry, my thing is going.
That's a good question. I think it falls in that category. It just depends on, you know, how important we think that is.
I'll pull that out as a standalone, and then you guys can tell me if you want to move it out.
I personally view it under community engagement. Under the,
You want to keep it down here?
Yeah, I think it could be under community engagement,
That sounds good.
yeah.
And is beautification a different item? Or
Yeah.
do you guys see as beautification, wanting to make some beautification changes overall in NFO as a standalone item, as a priority?
So I see it as something that crosses several of these aspects, like in terms of, you know, with beautification can come some community engagement. We can talk about green spaces, we can talk about identity. So I'm not sure if you want to call it as its own item or one that kind of is a cross-functional thing.
Got it. Coming back to you, Blair. Any thoughts? Hello, any thoughts? Anything else like to add, consider?
I mean, the goal essentially that we were tasked with was to narrow it down to the top 3. Is that correct? So I think we've got a pretty decent sized list here. How far do we want to branch off?
I think some of them fall into other categories, so
Agreed.
like in community engagement, you know, that means showing up at any, commit to 1 to 2 events a month that maybe a church is hosting or a nonprofit is hosting, make sure that somebody from the council is there with a business card and maybe a table set up. And
Yeah.
so that would be the kind of thing that I would like to see, I think would be helpful in terms of getting people to understand, you know, that this council exists and they can come to meetings and who we are. And so that's, you know, showing up at a soccer game. but us committing to doing that.
Those sounds like those are different ideas and tasks under community engagement,
Exactly.
but we're still talking about that high level.
So one thing I would want to say, and maybe this will work to that goal, is if we're at one of these events, it's more than just introducing ourselves. I think part of it is also being able to explain how we impact a decision with the supervisors and what it actually means if you attend this and make your voice heard here. Like, how do we show what it is that our council does for the community? So maybe that's part of preparing the pitch, or pointing to wins that people can see on what worked and what didn't work, where we had an impact, things like that.
Any thoughts, ideas you want to share? Everything, this is a study session, so it's open to everyone, and I really just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to really just, I mean, it's not set in stone yet, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it sounds like they fit into like the 3 priorities. I think Kathleen, that you had mentioned to us that I reported to supervisor. So now it's just finding out like, how are we gonna reach to those priorities? If a small business association is what is a priority, what's gonna then show the district that you guys met that priority, or what are the milestones that we're gonna meet and report back to the district at the end of the year and say, well, we did this outreach, this is the feedback we got. So just more of that set in stone of what's gonna get us to that goal, or what that goal is under that priority. Because I know that's something supervisor is very interested in seeing at the end of the year.
And that association is a hypothetical, assuming it gets in the top. 3
Exactly,
priorities.
yes.
And
I mean,
think
that was
it's just
that,
getting is how do we measure success?
the
How do you
structure.
measure that after that, we'll get there, once we identify the priorities, and then we'll start to get in a little deeper.
So this, I think, winds up being a question for Tim, because this is where I get really confused about Brown Act stuff. If I walk away today and I come up with a survey that I think would be a great start for talking to the small businesses, and I reach out to George, Mariella, forever, or to any 2 council members and say, hey, wanna go walk Middlefield Road with me? Does that questionnaire have to come back to the council in order for it to be okay, or that's the part that I don't really understand?
It's not required by the Brown Act that you bring it back to the council, but the council can take action to kind of instruct or delegate that something happened between meetings, so that the people that are working on it have some clarity about what it is they're supposed to do, and that everyone will support when it happens. The Brown Act is a prohibition on members of the council talking to each other between meetings. At the end of the day, that's really all it is. It's not a prohibition on doing things. It's a prohibition on talking to each other between meetings. So if you have clarity in this meeting about what the task is, you can execute on that task without constantly having to come back to the council and check about what the scope of it is. But have the conversation clearly in advance, do the thing, come back and report what you found. And then if people think that more work needs to be done in order to get valid data, you do more. But it's not a prohibition on what you're proposing.
Tim, as a follow-up, is it appropriate for a council member, just hypothetically, yes, I'm gonna meet, one member is gonna meet with George and Mariella to talk about priorities. Then I'm gonna meet with another member to talk about priorities. Then I'm gonna meet with another member to talk priorities. Essentially, I've met with more than half of the members outside, but not together,
Right.
separately. So what is your thoughts and advice on that?
If a member of the public serially meets with every member of the council, no one has done anything wrong. That is a protected communication under the Brown Act. It's the members talking to each other that is a problem.
Yeah, so if a member is doing that
Right.
across.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine for a member of the public to meet with every single one of their elected and appointed officials whenever they want to. And the one thing I would ask is that you not use that member of the public to convey messages to each other, because that would be you using that person as an intermediary. So let the other members of the council know that I will vote in favor of this item. That's not okay, but that's also not what we're talking about. We're talking about a member of the public asking you to do something and asking each of you to look at things a particular way, and that's totally fine.
Let me rephrase that question. If a council member meets with, has sidebar conversations with each of them separately, is that okay?
If a council member has sidebar conversations with each member of the council between meetings, no, the minute that they have talked to a majority of people, they have violated the Brown Act. That's the prohibition, is the council members talking to each other. And then when I say prohibition, it simply means you have to do that here in this room. You can't do it outside.
Is that, oh,
Yeah, no, that part I did understand. So no more than 4.
Correct.
Which is the same idea as a subcommittee thing.
Mhm.
But I just want to ask a clarifying question, just looking to me, but but if that also applies to the topic you're talking to them about, right? So if
Yes, you can inadvertently violate the Brown Act by having one conversation with 3 members of the council over here, and then have a later conversation with 2 others on the same topic. So you are supposed to compartmentalize in your mind, how many people have I talked to about this particular issue? Because otherwise you're simply separating in time a meeting of a majority of the members outside of a public agendized meeting.
Okay, here's another question then. You have 9 members of the council, 8 of them want to go door to door and talk. 2 groups of 4, those 2 groups can't talk together until we all come together.
Yes,
But they could go collect information, they can collect information. Next meeting, we can all talk about it.
yes.
Okay.
yeah,
Do we have to make that split now, or does that have to be made in a public forum?
Because that's a collection of data. That's not necessarily a discussion of
Right.
voting or next steps, or here's what we have. It's just, here's the data we collected. Let's correlate it and make one spreadsheet of it.
The Brown Act the Brown Act defines a meeting as any gathering of a majority to hear, discuss, or deliberate. I agree that you're not discussing or deliberating, but you are hearing. So that's the reason why it applies to meetings, even if it's not with the intention of deliberating outside of the public view.
Does that apply to group emails?
Yes.
So can you hear? We have parking.
I can. Yes, I can.
I'm gonna recap what we have one last time. Parking, small business association, community engagement, identity of NFO, and trees and green space. Those are what we have as priorities right now. If anybody wants to add,
I have a
you can
question.
add. Yep.
Small Business Association is coming in. It's already, Slocum's already greenlit it, and that's happening. Do we need to add that as a priority? Because it's already a priority. It's a known priority. It's gonna happen. Should we?
Like,
So I don't think he's doing,
no,
I don't think-
this is the council.
our office
Oh.
will,
Yeah, we're taking
Support.
out of the.
Got it.
Just
I
the
misunderstood.
council. Yeah.
Thought
the
Slocum
office will
greenlit it.
support,
they're not taking an active role in moving that forward.
Okay,
but this will fall on the council.
got it. Okay,
You will get support from the district.
then I have my clarity. Thank you.
You'll get support from the district on all of them.
Yeah,
Essentially, because remember, this all goes up to, you're advising the supervisor based on the priorities that you've identified. You're an advisory group to the district office. So if we've captured everything, if I've captured all your notes, what I'd like to do then is just say, you guys each have 3 stickers, and Niket, tell us where you'd like to put yours. And then that way it helps to, I start identifying those top 3, right? You need 3? Y'all get to come up and just put a little dot next to which 3 you want.
I do have one thought.
Yep.
since we are going door to door on Middlefield Road, talking to the business owners, could we combine the parking? Could we get some information from the parking at the same time, and put that under small business and then add it? So
I mean, I
gather at least the information that we're trying to understand and learn about.
think the survey definitely could. I personally view them as two separate topics, but
Yeah, those are two different topics, right?
your
Yes
call.
and no, it's about finding more space on Middlefield.
Yeah, that's
The bigger, long-term picture is much different.
agreed.
So if you want me to go ahead and put the votes up, I've got parking, trees and green space, and the community engagement aspects.
Thank you. Anybody else? You guys want to come up and do it yourselves, or I'm happy to be Vanna
No,
for
go
you?
ahead. Yes.
Do you guys want to close your eyes and?
Fine, I'll do it. I'll start.
In the town, Ladon.
It's like in the town.
I'm for small business, parking. And identity, we could roll it into engagement, kind of see, figure that out together. Trees.
Claire? You both?
You can put all three on business. Right?
you probably already.
Well, those are two different topics.
I know.
Right. So now we're gonna narrow it down between two items.
I don't have my stickers yet.
Oh, I don't have yours. Sorry about that.
When I go out and ask, I'm gonna look for space.
Wait, did you put three?
No, I didn't.
Or where's your third one?
Parking, small business, and community engagement.
You put them all? You put all your three
Yeah.
figures?
Oh, yeah, I did. But when I go out looking for information on Middlefield Road, I'm gonna find some green space.
I mean, it's a top priority that we need to focus on, but it's not the end game of where we stop.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
And
Okay.
should I remind ourselves that we also need to face ourselves because
Very good point.
we all have jobs. And, if this requires event, organizing and things of that nature, canvassing, all of that, takes time.
It does take time.
Now, everybody will get two. Now you
What's-
get two. And your two will be based on, you have four number fours, that's why. Small business, community engagement, and business, and trees and green space. So you have two now to pick
Trees
between
and-
those three topics.
Trees and green space for me, please.
Green
Well, you
space,
said trees and green space, but that has 4. I see parking is 5.
right, so that was already number priority one.
Ah, okay.
So now we're trying to get a three-way tie out of there.
I misunderstood.
So, Niket, I have, Small Business Association, Community Engagement, and Trees and Green Space. You get to pick two.
Uh,
Or you can put them all in one if you like, but whatever you like.
I'll go ahead and just put it onto the trees and green space at this point.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go? Go. All right. All right, your top three priorities are parking, small business, and trees and green space. Those are your top three priorities. Based on what I found here. Small business came in, parking by far was number one at first. And then we went into small business, which then lifted, came up to top one. Parking number two, and community engagement, I'm not community, and trees and green space is your next highest. So those are been identified as your three top priorities for 2024. Within each of them, you then start to say, what are those milestones? And I don't know if that's here today, but what are those tasks when you develop the work, and what are those tasks under each of them? Then how do you measure your success? And then how do you break up into who's going to be overseeing each of those areas? Like identifying a key person that's responsible for that section, or that will be reporting back on the progress of each of those. Is that a conversation you guys are willing to have today and make those recommendations on who you want to identify as key responsible parties, and who wants to be in, work on those areas, knowing that you can't have more than 4 people, but there has to be someone to report back. And we can put that on the agenda every meeting to report back the progress on each of those areas.
Personally, I think it's.
Sure. So I'm happy to volunteer. Oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm happy to volunteer to lead the trees and green space. And definitely one of the key areas that I'd like to make sure that we get through is an agreement on the tree ordinances, and make sure that it impacts North Fair Oaks the way we want it to. That's not the only one. I think we can probably come up with a couple other ones, but that's one of the main ones that I can think of right now.
Okay. Small Business Association and parking.
So I've been working on the Small Business Association questionnaire, and it wouldn't take long if I went through the questions that we want to ask and understand the information that we want. And then if anyone has any additional things they want to add, we could do that now and knock that out, and then we can start knocking on doors.
So Kathleen, back then, you would be the key person responsible that will be overseeing the Small Business Association?
I would love Mariella to do it, and then I will share.
Are you accepting that?
Yes.
Of course. Then parking, who would take the lead on parking?
Any takers?
Speakers, those goes?
All right, I'll do it.
Right. Now, so you have those, Niket, George, and Mariella. And then I think you start to say, under each of those, what are those tasks that will be performed? I don't need to get into the details, but it sounds like under this Small Business Association, there's gonna be a survey, and what would the survey, what are we trying to capture? The intent, the purpose?
Do you want to review the questions that we've been talking about? Do you have it on?
I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mariella knows.
Is the intent of the survey to see if there's interest in developing
Absolutely, yeah, that's
association?
what we need to see is
Okay, so it's for
how many would
interest,
be interested, yeah, how many
Okay.
businesses would agree and want to join
yes or no, yeah, okay.
Yeah. initially.
Is there a fee associated to that? No fees. And what else would we want to capture from the survey?
Can I ask a question? What do you mean by fees?
So most associations, there's a fee assigned to it.
Or
And
to
so
become members?
when we went out some years ago and surveyed the businesses, they were not interested in the association due to the fees.
Okay.
An association fee. So North Fair Oaks has not had an interest historically in participating in the chambers, developing association, because there's a fee assigned to, associated to it. So it sounds like there'll be a kind of a survey about interest as well as, what else?
Well, I want to find out the reason why they are not willing to join or they haven't been willing to join. I know a lot of these business owners have been there for over 30 years. So what is the reason behind them not wanting to be a part of an association?
Or maybe they are now.
So, and hopefully,
And what are the questions, type of questions?
we have so far,
You don't have to go
so,
through all of them. but just
yeah,
an idea.
contact information, business information, outdoor, street facing, building facelift, parking, other.
A building
issues.
facelift, what was that?
Huh?
What was the facelift piece?
Yeah, so
Facing.
the outdoor street,
Outdoor.
Are you asking if they want a facelift?
yeah, would you be interested, or are there any other issues?
So a facelift on the outside, I'm just wondering, is that something that the board here is saying that they're going to provide that level of funding?
No, what we were describing, we had some general discussions of possibly working out, just spitballing ideas, but talking to contractors that live and work in the area and saying, can you give us a group rate, a bulk deal for doing work in the community? And we could simply connect you to these people. So,
The only thing I would also do is just run the survey by the district office and make sure that we're not overcommitting any resources or funding that the supervisor hasn't agreed. That would be the only thing that I would recommend.
Yeah, we wouldn't be asking for, I mean, at this point, we've kind of been told we're not gonna get any funding, so this would be more of a grassroots effort. I talked to job training, let us borrow some people, get donations from people, so keeping it out of the county.
Well, we also
We talked
discussed
about-
having
So it looks like you'll do a
the same business
survey.
owners as a group come together, depending on how many are willing to join right away and come together and help each other out.
Sounds like you'll do a survey, a needs assessment, and some of those questions will be in there. Anything else under the business association that you consider as a part of the work plan that you want to capture, do? That we say, how do we measure success? You measure
might be
success by the
too
number
premature
that
for
you're
that.
on,
I
right?
think we need to identify first our sub goals within that in more depth and more detail.
Yeah, just start thinking about that more, and I don't think you need to think of it today, but that's just to get you started, and then say, I think a measure of success is how many people did you talk to? Could be a measure of success. How many people joined the association? Could be another measurement of success. Parking. Parking is George.
This is a challenging one. I'm thinking first step for me would be to talk to the county, Will Gibson specifically, see what options or ideas he has for additional parking, what lots the county might already own. That's something that's in the pipeline. More so to just gather information. That'd be the very first thing.
Okay.
Right along the lines, in the past, our council used to get reports, I'm thinking quarterly reports from sheriff's office as well as from CHP. And those included parking abatement efforts, and statistics about, ticketing and major parking problems in nearby areas, which were very useful. So I think that we could potentially try to get some of those reports back. If you think those would be helpful. And then, because I think, in my view, the parking issue is not only finding more parking, but also abatement, because there's a lot of abandoned vehicles in the neighborhood? And how do we encourage people to get rid of that junker, and open up more space?
Agreed.
Or how do we prevent the, large trucks, getting stalled for months on certain places, taking 2 or 3 spaces? So I think it's a combination of, finding more space, but also how is the abatement going?
Very good call. Thank you.
Trees, the cat, give me just a couple ideas on how we would measure, but as a work plan, again, you'll still have to dive deeper as you develop your work plan, but just to kind of begin the conversation, what does that look like? And what does that measure of success?
Sorry, was that for me?
I think the example that you provided was the ordinance and getting agreement in the tree ordinance. Is there anything else that we want to identify?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about some sort of like outreach at possibly events, like creating a presentation on the importance of the tree's nature and rules around tree removal and suggestions on what to plant, something along those lines. So perhaps a presentation of some sort as an outcome goal. And then some metrics on how well those are received and maybe collect some feedback on that.
So what I'm hearing, you guys, we're at 8 o'clock, you guys have identified 3 priorities. And under each of them, we've identified who the chair or the lead would be in under each of them. And then I think now you start to say who else is going to be in that group, that you guys could then develop your more detailed work plan within that area. I think, Tim, the 4 of them can meet as an ad hoc group. The 3 can meet to work on the work plan together, the 3. The 3 chairs, I call them chairs or leads, can work together, and then Kathleen joined that group as a ad hoc, and that's 4, and they're still within the not correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the 4 of you guys could meet, be over Zoom or something, and start to dive in deeper in your work plan together collectively. But I still would like to say, do we have any takers that could help support each of those work groups? And we can't have.
So I know Kelly had expressed some interest in helping me with the tree stuff a couple meetings ago.
Got it, I'll put Kelly in there.
Yeah, but she's not here right now, but maybe put her in.
Yep, got it.
One card was also.
You wanted trees?
One trees.
All right, let's go to parking and small business.
I can help you, George, with the parking.
Thank you. You could add me as an additional name on the small business as well, please.
Blair. Come on, Blair. Pick
And
one.
then there was one.
And then there's one. You can always just go.
Parking.
Parking.
At least for bicycles, we don't have enough.
So here's where I'm conflicted.
Trucks.
I kind of promised the supervisor back when I talked to him about taking the chair position, about the idea of more community engagement, the rest of North Fair Oaks. So now I'm like, I'll just stay with small business and do my little community engagement projects on the side, so I can keep that going, because it's really important to me.
I think it falls
I
under
want
it.
to bring this community together,
I feel
so.
like if I could suggest something, I think that the community engagement should be a given for the council. I think it's on everyone's mind to get more people to know about the council and what it is and what you can do. So I feel like it needs to be added to, but
Or I
maybe
can
as a
step
side
away,
thing,
I can step away, I'll just do small business until they don't need me. and
because we
then-
also have the community cleanup day. Right.
What
Those
you
kinds of
can,
things.
what you can also do is have another piece as another topic, is just, recommitment. We've done this before, you reviewed, we've done this before with council members. At Blair, you might remember, it's just, hey, is everybody committed to this? And what's your commitment level, which is kind of the roles and responsibility that already lies as part of being a member. And then just looking at and just kind of getting everybody's recommitment and what does that look like, and then outlining what that recommitment looks like. That's a suggestion. So Kathleen, I have you, who we missing? Am I missing maybe? Oh, right, okay. Kathleen,
Brooks.
who? Brooks. You know Brooks.
He had parks down, he had small business down, and he had rezoning and redevelopment, land use, but that's not what I was thinking.
I don't really see those, but besides it's a small business, but why don't we can get Brooks back and then ask him which one he wants to, or we put him in the small business one.
He's he's
Or trees, he
mentioned,
likes trees.
he likes trees, but he also has mentioned wanting to walk Middlefield Road and understand the businesses, so I'm sure he would enjoy being part of that.
I know he likes the parks and trees, Okay, so by default, it sounds like, but if he wants to change, we'll put Brooks in small business. With Mariela, George, and Kathleen. We have parking with George. George, you're doing two.
Busy guy.
All right, parking, Ever and Blair, George, Ever and Blair, trees, Kelly, Juan Carlos, and the guest. Thank you guys.
Can Juan Carlos be in small business? He put it down as well.
Why don't we just leave him in one, and then he can come back and tell us if he wants to switch. I would hate to put people in two if they're not here,
Sounds good.
just to be fair. You guys feeling good about your top 3 priorities?
It's definitely a good framework to start with.
Then you start thinking in your priorities, you'll start to then say, here's the priorities, and then here's the task, and then a date, when you want to accomplish it by, and then what's your metrics? So under each of them, you'll have several different things, and you'll say, under this item, we're gonna do this by this date, and this is the metric. We're gonna do this by this date, this is the metric. Preach to the choir, you guys know how to do this.
That's what the district is, but that's what we're looking for. We're hoping to see that.
Right.
And then, I think that if you wanted to talk about, I think as a chair, you could also talk about it, just like the council's commitment, you can always just put that in as your own internal goal is, I'm gonna, have an 80% attendance. I mean, you can have some of those internal goals as well, but that doesn't have to be a priority. It could be a discussion of, recommitment, reevaluation, and just making sure everybody has time.
In the past, when the council has gone to, let's say, a street fair or something like that, is there a table and graphic and business cards, does any of that exist?
So right now, there's currently, we would have to go back to the boards and commission and ask for, and staff will do that. We can ask for a budget. You'd have to put a budget together to say, what is the budget that you need? We do, if you find, some of you may remember, we had a bag that, I don't know where it ended up, and somebody has it.
So the former chair keeps it, so.
So Brooks may have it.
Brooks may have it, for
So
sure.
it's a bag that we put together and it has a tablecloth and, stuff in there. So that when you go to different events, you have the tools that you need. And then we could help you fill those, stuff up. And what I would, if you guys don't, what I use, and if you guys haven't used it, I use a digital business card. And the digital business card, it just does a QR code and it scans it, and then you're able to put your hat on a council member and if you like. to do that too, but we could look at doing, and you guys each have your own email addresses, and we can also look at that too, but if you put a budget together, you can let us know what that need is. And we could present that. But yes, we could definitely, you know, we have that, check in with Brooks on where that bag is at. Tablecloth, et cetera.
Yeah, and I remember we updated a flyer, which is bilingual and has, you know, a good description of what the council is and when we meet, et cetera. It's very informative. It's updated, so just a matter of, you know, running to Kinko's and making copies and we can distribute those.
Where is that flyer?
Brooks has it.
Brooks has it.
If you get it, we
And
can
I,
help with printing.
and I actually may have the file, because remember I helped them to update it and do the translation, so,
Please share.
yeah. Sure.
Right. Anything else for the good of the order?
I think the priorities are set.
What are next steps?
The next steps are finishing the survey, getting feedback from the members, and my schedule frees up early June. So
So the work
I'm
plan,
saying by the end of hopefully July, we've been able to talk to most of the business owners along the.
so the work plan is due at the end of the month. Well, when will the district?
So
receive-
I have a start now. I just need to get Nickette's, the green space, because I had to start on something else, so
Okay, so do you know by when we will have, like, when can you share that with me?
tonight. I can show you what I have so far.
Okay,
So it sounds like the work plan is due from each of these three groups to the district by the 31st. So internally, you may well have to meet, I'm looking at the dates, George and others, schedule when you guys could meet so that you could put together and confirm and review and approve the work plan that will be submitted to the district on the 31st. So if you guys could make a commitment perhaps to meet within the next week, and then Kathleen will submit that work plan on the 31st. on
Question?
behalf.
for you, does the work plan have to get approved by the council before it's then showed to the district, or is that? Because I think next week you guys have your meeting, and that way you can present it to the staff, to the council to approve it, and then you can send it to the district. But I don't know.
And then with
The bylaws require that the council develop an annual work plan. It doesn't specify exactly how it gets approved.
Okay.
But it would be a good idea if there was some evidence that people had bought into it.
You think you could have a draft of a work plan by next Thursday?
I've already started ours
Yeah,
for the small business.
but that's just for the small business. We've got other,
And parking. Some stuff free for parking, so it'll just be, I'll just share the.
can it be a working document or does it have to be the final draft that you need?
It'll be a draft working document that we have to share with the public.
That's fine.
So we would
I think
need
it's
that
fair
no
to-
later than Monday or Tuesday so that we can post it.
Might be too soon.
So
It's already Thursday and Monday may not be.
if they don't have it to present before it goes public, can they still present it that day? And then add it as an attachment?
This would be a discussion internally with our,
Oh, it's not a discussion, it would be a motion to approve the work.
Anything can be put on a board agenda. There isn't a requirement that it have prior approval to be on the agenda. So even if it's in draft form, if you're talking about next week's meeting, it could be brought to the meeting, presented for the first time at the meeting.
Okay.
The only prohibition is on sharing it amongst the council members without also sharing it with the public.
Okay. So you could present it that day, give it to us the night before. Can you give it to us? Can the three chairs give it to us the night before? Give us one work plan so that we can have it ready to queue up to share on the Thursday.
let's sync on schedules, I think, and then we can get back to you on whether or not we can.
So for me, so I know tomorrow I have to post the agenda. So we're gonna put the review the draft work plan. And then get it approved. It'll be a motion so that it can be public and review it and approve it. So that the public knows that these are your priorities and these are your work plan. I mean, a working document is all, a work plan can always be modified as a working document.
Right, but it's through the
But it actually-
31st, and we have yet to even set a schedule to figure out when we can discuss it. So I don't want to prematurely say we'll have it to you.
Can you have it by next Thursday morning?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, because what I consider our work plan is gonna be completing the questionnaire, walking door to door the questionnaire, submitting results. And I've already outlined that, so we're in good shape for this one business association. I'll share this stuff.
All right, so we'll add it to the agenda to review, and then we know that the other one is the 31st. Is there anything else? As for part of next steps? The next steps is that the subgroups will meet. And then who should we receive that draft from? Kathleen, we'll get that from you on Thursday?
Yes,
Send it to Bo by Thursday? Got it.
by tomorrow?
No,
Oh,
next Thursday.
Yeah.
Next Thursday before noon?
Yeah.
Got it. Anything else? Anything else, county, that we're missing? What part of next steps that the supervisor may be interested in?
Kathleen, just to you, are you gonna discuss cleanup day and
Yeah.
That'll be in the report out. Yeah, it's not a separate item. All right. All right, guys, I think I'm done here. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
What's the next agenda? Oh, I think you have to do a public one.
Public comment.
She wants to come on agenda item number 3. Please raise the hand on Zoom or bring speakers to the clerk at this time. It's like we have.
Moving on, then I think we can go ahead with report outs. If there's anything else on
I don't think the report outs
Oh, we don't do
for
that.
study
Oh,
sessions
it, okay,
next week.
well, we do have one. We have to do.
Oh, okay.
Put your calendars out, we need you, well, you must be available on Saturday, June 15th. 8:30 in the morning, meeting here in the parking lot. We are looking for at least 200 volunteers to go through probably this side of Fifth Avenue to Douglas. We haven't completely identified, but we're kind of looking Fifth Avenue up in the neighborhoods within there and to do a community cleanup. We're going to try to do trash collection, and we're still working on trying to make sure that we can possibly get some things like metal appliances out of people's yards, some of the junk that people, you know, just can't afford to get to Recology or wherever to get thrown away. Maybe some furniture recycling. The great group of young people is behind this, the Sheriff's Athletic League, SAL kids, they're so involved. They did the flyer. They're excited, and we're excited to be partnering with them. There'll be coffee, probably a snack in the morning. We're working with vendors for food when we're done. So we'll register, get everyone started around 8:30. We'll hit the ground running around 9, and we'll break off into groups and just get out there. And that will be a great time to do a little bit of community engagement. If we make sure we let people know council members, maybe I'll try to have business cards for everyone. But it's kind of the first big community cleanup that we haven't done for a while. So we need 200 people. And we'll have your little picker-uppers and your plastic bags and all of that to help us make this happen. So
Do we know how many have already committed? Do we have any way of tracking that?
we are just getting started with the Google
one
Drive.
person
Yeah, well, yeah.
tracking it
But
every
all
day?
of you, so we can just add you all, right?
Yes,
There we
please
go.
sign up right now.
Yeah.
Just
and
kidding.
a few more. But, yeah, we could really use your help. So, actually, I can't say mandatory, but please be there for a couple of hours anyway. Other than that, I don't have anything else. So should we go ahead and adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.